guys, it's the end of May, beginning, well, almost into June. It's the last week that river fishing is allowed in fly fishing. We arrived at Maritzburg. We're going to shoot down to the Midlands, just past Nottingham Road. I'm not exactly sure where we're going, and that's why we're relying on Jan from the Kingfisher Maritzburg. We're stopping here. He's going to kit us out. I've never really done river fishing for trout, only really the dams, the controlled environments. So the river is something new, very excited, and who better to go with than Jan? Everyone who knows Jan here in Maritzburg, from a fly fishing perspective, the best advice you can get. So if you're in the area and that's something you want to look into, is a bit of fly fishing, Jan is the right person to speak to at Kingfisher Peter Maritzburg. Let's go meet Jan. This is Jan. You guys have met him before. So yeah, quite excited. I was just telling our audience that this is my first for river fishing.
We're nearly at the end of the season, but the fish are still there. So yeah, no, so it should be good. The rivers are, by all reports and indication, the river's looking really, really good at the moment.
So that's top water.
Top water, dry fly is my name of the game. Yeah, no, so specifically what we would prefer to do.
Okay.
And all catch and release. We don't eat brown trout. They're kind of like they've got like a bit of
the main species,
bit of a snob value. They do.
Yes.
Yeah. So where we fishing is specifically brown trout water.
Brown trout. It's a prize fish. It's something I think I've caught one in my life. Also in a dam in Dullstroom.
Right. Just lucky.
But that's it. Other than that, I haven't seen many of them. Now a bit of kitting up.
Okay. So what we're going to be running with is a Daiwa Wilderness in a three weight stick. It is a 7'6" 4-piece. So your stick is basically pieces like that. And yeah, we're going to be running it with a floating line, obviously, for the dry fly work. And yeah, we don't really need big reels with heavy drag systems where we're going. So for the smaller fish, Daiwa Lochmore, standard click and pull reel. So very simple, no drag system, just a simple click. We're going to put a little bit of backing on there just to fill up the reel, because it's older school, medium arbor, and you want to fill the reel up a little bit. And basically all of your modern fly lines these days are built in what we call a weight forward configuration. So if we take a standard fly line, 30 meters, 90 foot equivalent thereabouts, is that in a weight forward configuration you have the front third of the fly line is basically the belly or the heavy section, the taper section that you're casting, and the rest is basically no taper, very thin, what we call a running line. There's no join or anything. It's still a single continuous line, so there's no join between the head and the running line, as it were. And a double taper essentially has got no taper to it, so it's got a taper in the front and a taper at the back, and it's continuous all the way through. From an economic point of view, essentially you've got two fly lines in one, because after a couple of seasons, if the front section of your line is wearing, you can essentially just turn the whole fly line around and you've got a whole brand new fly line. So I mean, a double taper is very nice. The nice thing about the Snowbee lines these days, most of your modern fly lines also, is they have a loop-to-loop connection on the end of it. Oh. So the loop-to-loop, so no fiddling around with braided loops, very simple to attach your leader straight onto the line, no knots required, very, very simple. So what we're going to use is just a standard knotless monofilament tapered leader, and we'll use a Siglon. 4X has got a slightly thicker butt section, so I prefer 4X. 4X for guys will say it's a little bit heavy for the small stream work that we're doing, but I prefer the 4X tapered leader because it's slightly heavier in terms of turning over flies. Should we need to be throwing nymphs that are slightly weighted, you want something to turn over. But otherwise, also if there's a bit of wind, if you've got a bulky, chunky dry fly that you want to turn over in wind, you need something with a little bit of butt strength just to turn the fly over. Okay. But the 4X, the end of that is essentially about 6 pounds, is a bit thick for the dry fly work that we're doing. So generally what we will do is we will put a short section of 5X tippet onto the end of that.
Short section, about 30 centimeters.
About 2 to 3 feet. So you have a standard 9-foot tapered leader as it comes out the packet, and then we add about 2 to 3 feet of tippet section on the end of that, so you end up with a leader 11 to 12 feet. Okay. Plenty for where we're going. You'll see tomorrow when we're fishing. Generally very small stream area, but where we're going is specific pure brown trout territory.
Sure.
Pure brown trout. So that's one of the main reasons why guys actually come to Natal. We have two probably the most pristine brown trout streams in the country. So which is the Moy, the upper section of the Moy, and then the upper section of the Bushmans.
Okay, then last but not least, flies.
Yeah, so flies, generally we'll be using a selection of dry flies. We're going to do some fly tying as well.
Yes.
For you guys. We're going to tie a variation of a rab for that. Otherwise your parachute mayflies are really popular, and also emerger style flies, clinkhammer.
Is this seasonal time of the year, or?
Dry flies, no dry fly. I'm kind of like known for fishing exclusively dry fly. Okay. I fish a nymph only if I'm really pushed. Okay. So I fish dry fly almost exclusively. I tie a personal version of an emerger style fly, which is a combination between a rab and a clinkhammer. So it's also a parachute. It's an emerger, and by an emerger, what we say is that if we can style this as a fly, for example, an emerger pattern sits half and half in the water. Yes. So it sits with his bum sitting in the water, whereas a pure dry fly sits purely purely on the surface of the water.
So this is a pure dry?
So it's a pure dry, and this is an emerger, and I tie a variant of between the two because I like the big bushy effect of the rab and the post, and then with the drop bum in the water, I think it really does something for the fish. Fish generally can't leave the thing alone. So
here we go.
So yeah. So basically, I mean, you need like 3 flies really for a day on the rivers here for the brown trout.
Okay, now totally unprepared, so I need to get some clothes. Kingfisher makes this nice quick dry material pants. Just grab some water boots, and then I'm considering the jacket. I'm still thinking.
So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to load the backing onto the fly reel. Put a couple of spools around. Already. Because it's a double taper fly line, you've got a loop connection on both of the ends of the fly line. Essentially what we're going to do here is we're going to, again, you can loop the backing onto the fly line. Just makes changing fly lines very easy if you ever have to. And as I said, the same with the leader. So we've got the end of the fly line. What we're going to have to do here is make a loop on the end of the backing. So generally you want a loop that's about the same size as the spool, because the loop's got to go over that. Okay, so double one through the second half again. Close the loop, makes that nice figure of 8 over the top, on the tag end. That then goes through the fly line, over the spool, and then you have a very nice seating of the fly line on the loop. What you always want to ensure is you want the loops, when you're making a loop-to-loop connection, to make sure that they're holding like that, as opposed to a folded over loop. And this here, for example, if it folds over like that, it makes what's called a biting or a cutting loop. Not that it really matters in this instance, but it's more prevalent on the front end of the fly line with your leader. When your leader is folded over like that, that biting or cutting, particularly for still water applications for the bigger fish, it will break at some stage. It will be a big fish, and I will hear you scream wherever you are.
Of course, that's Murphy.
That's Murphy's law. So yeah, but on the smaller application, like it's not too serious, none too serious. So again, now we just wind the fly line like we did before.